Colin Powell once said, "There are no secrets to success. It's the result of preparation, hard work, and learning from failure." And we couldn't agree more. This is Unleash the Champ Leadership Podcast. Unleash the Champ Leadership Podcast. We'll talk to people from all walks of life and pick their brains about their journey, the process, and the ups and downs to becoming successful. You want inspiration and motivation? It all starts here. This is the Unleash the Champ Leadership Podcast. And now your host, Kyle Sullivan.
What's going on, champions? Welcome to another episode of Unleash the Champ Leadership Podcast. Today, our guest is Clay Mosley. He's a husband, father, speaker, entrepreneur, marketing conversion expert, frequent podcast guest, and a sci-fi nerd. For 10 years after college, he jumped from job to job, getting fired from each one of them. I'm excited to hear that story. It wasn't for being lazy or not good at his job, just understanding that the way he operated wasn't traditional, so corporate jobs didn't work for him. This realization that he was unemployable led to the start of his digital marketing agency in 2015. Through his completely unorthodox business approach, allowed him to grow his marketing agency into a 7-figure business and a team of 20 in just 4 short years. He sold that agency. Now he's the CEO of Dripify, an online marketing, training, coaching, and consulting platform for service-based entrepreneurs, in addition to being a partner in a handful of companies. Clay, thanks so much for being on the show today.
Man, thanks for having me. I'm trying to think, like, did I write that shit? Like,
yeah, man. Hey, you got the receipts for sure. And man, I like to jump off this way. We got what you've done, got the highlight reel. But who is Clay behind the bio?
If I had to narrow it down to like one word, I would say rebel. So I don't know. I figure out, and this is just like in all things that I do, I try to figure out what's like the best way of doing something in, I don't know, as few steps as possible. And that typically means I'm doing it a different way than everybody else. And so like that's like me. And how that translates into marketing is like I'm not like, these days my shtick is like I'm almost like an anti-agency person. So I would like, a lot of agencies don't like me because that's what I'm going for now. So yeah, that's me. I'm like rebel.
Nice, man. And so how long you been married? How old are your kids? Talk about your family a bit if you want.
Yeah. I've been married since 2019. And we have a beautiful daughter, first one. We only have one for now. She is 10 months old, and best thing in the world, becoming a dad.
Man, I feel that so much of what I started the business was because our daughter. When I share my story on stage, I say that October 5th, 2019 at 12:47 a.m. Unleash the Champ started. That's when I helped my daughter for the first time. So I get that, man. Our daughter's 3. We have a son that's 1. And so we're living in the 2 toddler phase right now, but it's super fun. And I agree. And becoming a dad is the absolute best thing. So 2015, you get into digital marketing. It's a different world than it is today.
Yeah.
And so what are some of the biggest shifts that you've seen in that time frame? And how have you been able to continue to evolve to what you were able to when, it feels like digital marketing is always changing? How are you able to stay relevant?
Yeah, I have a love-hate relationship with marketing, just marketing in general, because it's like, it is always changing. That's why I love it and I hate it. I love it because it keeps me employed. I hate it because I always have to be on top of my game, right? But to go to your question, like since 2015, when I started my agency, we were pretty known for being mostly social media content agency. And back then it was mostly just like Facebook, Instagram. Like that was like, those were like the 2 platforms. And Instagram wasn't even like, Instagram today, to me is like 3 different social networks into one. But like back then it was one, like, it was just like, hey, like there's just the feed, right? And so it's evolved so much, like, cause since I think 2015, that's when like live streaming just started coming onto the scene. I think it hit really big right around 2016, 2017. So that evolved into that. And then, obviously TikTok and the really short form, fractional content, that's come on the scene. So like how it's evolved is like things are getting much shorter in the, like, the, what am I trying to say? Like the duration of like how the content's consumed, but also the creativity, like that right there has been, has evolved quite a bit, because with TikTok and like reels, like you can be super creative. Even you can even go back to like Snapchat, right? When Snapchat first came on, like I think Snapchat was like the first really like creative social network, because you can draw and things like that on there. Um and Snap is still around, but yeah, I would say in terms of like how it's evolved, it's it's how short the content's gotten, and it obviously been focused on video, and then the creativity.
Yeah, and to your point about how short the content's gotten, do you see that as a challenge for businesses that want to build their brand or want to build a following with going like, hey, it's got to be so short? Do you see that as an asset or maybe a liability for folks that struggle to condense their information like that?
This really depends on your perspective, right? Like, so it's like an advantage, in my opinion, for those who are willing to do and wanting to do content, because it takes way less time to do it. Um, but the problem is, it's like this, there's the same challenge, even if you go back to like 2010, 2012, 2015, like it's the same challenge today as it was back then. Business owners just don't, straight up don't want to create content. You know what I mean? Like that, it's the same challenge. So it's an advantage as far as the ones that can and are willing to create content, but we'll continue to have the same challenge in those that are not willing to.
Yeah, the fall to the wayside.
Yeah.
I mean, where do you see short form sticking around for a while, or do you see kind of a pendulum swing back to maybe longer form in the next 18-24 months?
I think I was just talking to somebody about this the other day. I think we have a window of opportunity right now. Um, I think it's going to pick up. I think it's going to pick up. And I think over the next 12 to 24 months, I actually think people that can go all in on short form video, and I'm talking like YouTube Shorts, TikTok, and Instagram Reels. And I'm secretly hoping Twitter, like, it brings back Vine, right? I think Vine was way too early to the market. Um, but I think that's going to pick up. And I think the people who are going to go all in on that right now over the next 1 to 2 years, I think are going to be able to build like a massive audience, because just the way the algorithms work right now, like anybody can go viral, even if you only have like 50 followers. So I think that's going to pick up. It is going to go through the same change as all these other social networks, the same change that Facebook went through, the same change Instagram went through. Like, it's where it's like it'll start to plateau, and then something new needs to come on the scene, right? And then the algorithms will change, and the reason the algorithms change is because like now you got ad platforms, um and so like that, and you have to have a reason to it's like kind of catch 22. It's like you can get massive organic traffic right now, but like that's, in my opinion, that's the reason why the algorithms change and why organic growth goes down, is because you got to give a reason for advertisers to actually pay money, right? So I think it'll pick up, but I think it will plateau over the next like 2-3 years.
Yeah. And that's a great transition to what I was wanting to ask next, is the idea of ads. So how much harder is it to just get that organic reach and visibility when these are platforms that they want to make money? So how the algorithm works and all of this stuff, it's like, can you grow a profitable like brand online without, little to much ad spend?
You can. It's it all depends on strategy, right? Like if you hit these short form content platforms, YouTube Shorts, TikTok Reels, right now, like you can get tons of exposure organically. Now, the game here is quantity, right? It's quantity, but also like without losing quality. So like what I've been telling people is like you need to be posting short form video on these platforms like 1 to 3 times a day. Because eventually something's going to go viral, right? But if you're only doing it once a week, something will, but like, dude, you might miss the window, or it's going to take really long time to do it. So I think on those 3 platforms, yeah, you can absolutely do it organically. You can do it on other platforms organically. It's just going to take very, 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 very long. Like if you're still sticking to like just Facebook and Instagram or LinkedIn, like you can still do it organically. It's just going to take a long time. And the problem with that is people usually don't have they don't stick to it to take as long as it does. So that's why ads helps with that. It accelerates it, right?
Yeah. So talk to the person. You mentioned this, and I've struggled through this in the beginning of my business, like creating that much content.
Yeah.
Because you see videos like, 1 to 3, or, in the beginning of TikTok, it's 3 to 5 a day. It's like, my God, like we're running businesses. How do we, what advice do you give to your clients that, okay, you got to crank out this much content? How do you do it? How do you repurpose it? What are some best practices?
Yeah, there's a process behind that. So there's a couple of things I can unpackage here. So I'll talk about the process of the content first. So like, in my opinion, the way to do it is you start with long form video. So I'm talking like a video that's like 8 to 12 minutes long that you would upload on YouTube. And then you take that, you could also do this with a podcast, just like this one that you record on video. Because this is going to be 20, 30 minutes long. But I usually start with the 8 to 12 minute long YouTube video that has like 5 talking points. And you can take that video and you can cut that up into 5 different short 1 minute short form video snippets, right? And you can use those video snippets on TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts. You can also take that YouTube video, the long form, and pay a writer, relatively inexpensive, to write an article based off the content of what's on the video, right? That way you don't, this is just an SEO thing, right? Like a lot of people hire writers and the writers have to do research. And then now you're like, well, I don't know if like that content's accurate, and ends up becoming fluff content. Well, if you record a video, like a 10-minute video, they can just take the transcription and reformat that into an actual blog article. And then boom, the information's accurate and it's a written blog article. You can also take those little short video snippets and turn them into graphics, tweet graphics. You can extract tweets from it. You can take those 5 talking points and turn that into a 5-point carousel on Instagram. So like what I just went over is one 10-minute YouTube video. You can create about 20, 25 pieces of content, right? Yeah. So that's the process.
Man, that, I love to tell you, it is a lot of work, but you made it sound like, as the business owner, as the person, like record a 10, 12-minute deal and then hire somebody,
it's a lot of work. It's still a lot of work if you go through this process, but it is way less work versus if you have to create original content for each platform independently, right? Because then you got to come up with an original idea for Facebook, another one for Instagram, another one for Instagram Reels, another one for TikTok, another one for YouTube, write a blog article that's separate, right? If you do all those independently and separate, that's 10 times more work. Now, the process I just talked about it's nothing new. It's what Gary Vee does. It's what a bunch of these influencers do. They just take a long piece of content and they fraction it out into smaller pieces. Now, like that's the first thing. Like the second thing I can unpackage is time. Time. People complain about time. And so the thing that this is something I learned from my business coach with timing is like you for like 2 or 3 days, you can even do it for a week, is like literally log every single task that you do in a 24-hour period for over multiple days. Literally everything, right? Sleep. Yes, you write that down, right? And it should be pages of stuff. And then you take everything on that list and you categorize it by unskilled tasks, skilled tasks. Unskilled tasks is things like administrative, like that kind of stuff. Takes a small amount of training to take care of. Skilled tasks are things like video editing, design work, like someone had to actually learn a skill to be able to do this. And then you got managerial tasks, right? And then there's a fourth category of tasks you have to do. There's no one else in this entire world that can do it, right? You cannot train another person to do it. No one else can do it, right? So something like that is spending time with your family, right? No one else can do that. Well, no one else should do that. So you take everything and you put those in all four categories. And the unskilled task, you throw out a VA, a virtual assistant. The skilled task, you can delegate to, a video editor, designer, whoever, right? Managerial task, depending on where you are in your business, you can like give that to one of your managers or hire manager or your COO or something, right? And then you have the task that's just for you that you have to do as an individual person. And then if you do that system, then the only thing that you should do, like one task in that category, that fourth category, is something I have to do, is I have to get on camera and record, right? I have to do it because it's like my personal brand, right? But somebody else can fractionize that content, right? All I got to do is record a 10-minute video raw, and then I hand it off to somebody to process and dissect all that content, right? That's how you do it.
Yeah, that's good. And that's so powerful because we say, oh, I don't have time. We don't have time. No, we got time. We just waste a lot of it on things that, are not what only we can do. So I love that. What are you most excited about right now? And actually, before that question, let's go there. And then I got a question about the 10 years of going from job to job. So what are you most excited about in digital marketing right now? And I think, what can we learn from it?
So that's a good question. What I'm most excited about right now is kind of where I think things are moving to, as far as like I'm talking about small businesses here, where who they are going to be hiring. So I think there's a switch, and this is my mission. Okay. This is my mission right now is, as I mentioned, I'm anti-agency. Like I think the agency model's broken. Let me give you some context why. Because in order for a small business, let's just talk about like maybe it's a pest control company that serves locally, right? Or a chiropractor that serves locally where they are. There's a list of 112 things that they need to do to create their own internal marketing system that actually works. From my opinion. An agency, if you hire an agency, they might do 3, 4, 5 of those things. Now, that's not to say that the agency is bad at those things. A lot of them are, but let's just assume you have a good agency who is actually good at those 5 things. The problem is that you got another 107 things that need to be done that are not getting done. So that's problem number 1. Problem number 2 is agencies are expensive. It's really difficult for a small business to afford agencies, right? And then problem number 3 is, let's just say a small business hires an agency and they're doing well and they're bringing in the leads. What happens if you stop paying them? It's a completely dependent relationship, which is what the agency wants, right? Like that's what they want. And I think it's broken. It's not good for the small business owners. So that's why I'm anti-agency. So back to your question, I think there's a shift on who these small businesses are going to hire. They're either going to hire specialists, right? People who specialize in a certain thing, maybe Google AdWords, or someone who does only TikTok or something like that, Facebook ads, whatever. And or they're going to move to hiring like fractional CMOs, like fractional chief marketing officers. So someone who actually come in on their behalf, not an agency's behalf, but their behalf, and say, hey, here's what you're missing. Here's what you're doing well. Here's where you're strong. Here's where you're weak. Here's who you should hire. Here's who you should not hire. Right? I think that's going to be the shift versus small business owners hiring agencies directly. So that's what I'm most excited about.
Yeah.
You muted.
And two, it allows for a person to go, hey, I don't have to learn all these different things. I can really, niche down my skills and be able to target a specific business owner. Cause I think about, folks that I know that, man, having the same conversation. I need this type of person. I need this type of person. And so I love that. Let's go back a bit before the agency started, and man, the 10 years of going from job to job, getting fired, how was that process? Because we can look at all that you're doing now, all the amazing things, the business sold, the partnerships, the, ownership in companies. Man, talk about the 10 years of like, what am I doing here? What's happening?
Yeah. So a lot of people, I've actually sold 2 different agencies. That was not included in my bio. But I did that in the last 7 years, right? 2 agencies in 7 years. And people always say, man, you did that so quickly. I'm like, no, like it took me 10 plus years of like getting fired from different jobs. So the story behind that is, like, after I graduated college in 2005. I took the first job that I was offered, which was corporate insurance operations. And it was a cubicle. It was a cubicle job. I hated it. Was not for me. If you know me, like, I am the last person to be sitting in a cubicle. So I got, so I basically hopped from that job. I went straight into insurance sales because I don't know why, like, insurance claims wasn't bad enough. I thought, man, I think I could sell insurance. No, I was terrible. I was terrible at selling insurance. I have huge props for anybody who can sell insurance successfully, because that's like the worst product I think you could sell. Like, when I say worst, like the most difficult product. So yeah, I failed miserably at that. Got fired. And then I thought, man, I think I should start my own independent insurance agency and sell insurance. I don't know why I did that, because I couldn't sell it. The previous job after that, I don't know why starting my own thing would do any better, but no, I still sucked at selling insurance. So, like, I failed that. And just kind of fast forwarding, I worked everything from, so I started out in insurance, but I went into, like, dude, I went into heating and air, right? I blew insulation in attics. I worked I went back to school for engineering. I worked an engineering job. Like, I hated it. I got fired. Like, so like going back, it's just like I got fired for most of these jobs just because it was one of those things where it's like, again, I'm a rebel. Like I try to figure out how to get the same or better result. And if it takes 5 steps, I try to figure out and do it 2 or 3. I just worked for a bunch of like people who didn't like change, you know? And so, that's the reason why I was fired. And so like the last job I was fired from is February 6, 2015. I remember the day at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. I got fired. Luckily, like while I was working that job for like the past like 6 months or so, I was dabbling in like web development. I was kind of teaching myself. And so I said, well, I think I'm going to go and like try to find a job as a web developer at an agency. Well, I applied to all the agencies. Well, the problem was like my resume had nothing to do with web development or web design. My education had nothing to do with web development. Like on paper, I'm like, and also I was fired from all these jobs, right? Never worked a job in agency world. On paper, I'm like the worst applicant you can receive on your desk. So I did not get an interview. No one would interview me. So I said, okay, well, screw this. I'm just going to start my own thing and just be freelance. So I started out freelancing, I think April of 2015. So a couple months after I was fired from the last job. And I said, I'm just going to build WordPress websites. And I did it for cheap. I think I did it for like $500 a website. Like, that's it. $500. But it got me started. I sold my first like 10 websites for $500 or 10 or 15 or something. And it got me started. I was barely paying the bills. Now I was eating ramen noodles, but like I was living. And then just fast forwarding, like things started to pick up. I started to raise my fees. And by the end of April 2016, hired my first employee. By the end of 2016, we were at a team of 4. End of 2017, we were a team of 11. End of 2018, we were at 18. And then when I sold in 2019 in June, we were at actually 22. So, fast forward today. Now I'm a marketing consultant / coach. So that's what I do. There's my life in a nutshell.
Yeah, I love that. And how do you see the lessons learned, the resiliency built, the perseverance grown, continue to be serving you today?
Oh, dude, I've grown really thick skin when it comes to failure. I mean, I am. It has given me the ability to take risks. I have no problem taking a risk. Calculated risk. But even if I fail, it doesn't bother me as much. It still bothers me. I'm human. It's going to bother people. It will always bother me if I fail. But the difference is how quickly I respond, right? And react, like, and bounce back. Like, that's the difference. And so I would say that right there, my 10 plus years of getting fired and failure and all that, like it's the recover time from failure to bouncing back. That's the difference. That's what I've learned.
Yeah, I love that. And it's evident that that's a gold mine skill for entrepreneurs and business owners. So I'm glad you went there, Clay. Where can people find you online? What you're doing? They want to reach out. Where's the best place?
So you can go to my website. It's getdripify.com, GETDRIPIFY.com. And that's where it is on socials. Like, it's just Get Dripify everywhere. So that's where
awesome. Super simple. Before we let you go, man, I got one more question. At Unleash the Champ Leadership Podcast, we want to know, what does it mean to be a champion to you?
For me, specifically?
Yep.
For me, it is making sure that I keep to my priorities. It doesn't have anything to do with how many companies I've sold. Doesn't have anything to do with money, how much money I'm making, nothing like that. My priorities is God, my wife, my child, business.
Done and done. That's priorities kept in the right place is definitely a mark of a champion. Clay, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You've been listening to the Unleash the Champ Leadership Podcast. Our passion is to talk to successful people and hear all about their journey and what it took to get there. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, hit up the website at unleashthechamp.com. Find us on Instagram at Kyle J. Sullivan and hit up that Facebook page at Unleash the Champ. Remember, if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But by all means, keep moving.